class. I'm sure that you would agree with me that sometimes when we have discussions among ourselves, we come to the conclusion that for this particular issue or for this particular topic that we are discussing, Mr. A or Madam B will be the best fit to handle the issue. I'm sure we've all come across those kind of instances in class. The reason is that our leadership class for today, the guest lecturer has served in different capacities. He has led in different capacities by serving others. And we believe that when we look around in this country, there's nobody better fit to talk to us about servant leadership than our today's guest lecturer. For many of us who know him, the list or the profile is that long. And if I want to start, we probably will not end today. And so I'll go straight to the point and introduce our guest lecturer briefly and allow him to do the rest of the introduction himself. He once served as the regional minister for the Eastern region. Even before that, he served as local government minister, local government and rural development. And then he also served as the chief of staff between 2013 and 2016. Currently, he is our chief of staff, Ghana's chief of staff, serving as a second term as our chief of staff. And so when we come to serving others or leading by serving others, that's what I meant by he's the best fit to do that for us. So students, colleagues, let's put our hands together and welcome our guest lecturer for today, the Honorable Julius Debrah.
Thank you. Good afternoon to you all. So faculty members, students, university staff, distinguished guests, it is a deep privilege to join you all here at the Academic City University, a place that represents energy, creativity, ambition of Ghana's next generation. Every time I step onto a university campus, it reminds me of the power of ideas and the responsibility of leadership, because it all starts here. I believe strongly that there are some amongst you who probably in the near future will end up as ministers of state, very successful entrepreneurs and business people. I am especially grateful to speak to you today on a theme that has shaped my entire public life, the servant leader. Leadership takes many forms. Some people see it as a title. Others see it as an influence. But for me, leadership has always been about service. Service to God, service to loved ones, and service to our country. It is about showing up for the people who look up to you. It is about carrying the weight of responsibility without letting the weight crush your humility. It is about offering direction when others are not so sure of where to go, and offering calm when others are uneasy. Above all, it is about putting other people first. It is the kind of leadership, dare I say, that Ghanaians voted massively for in the last elections by electing His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama and Her Excellency Nana Opoku-Agyeman. They are leaders who lead daily with the power of example. And as their chief of staff, I am profoundly privileged to work in furtherance of their vision. I could not have asked for a better head coach and assistant head coach. And as I captain this young and dynamic administration to realize the Ghana we all want. When we reflect on the kind of leadership Ghana needs today and in the coming years, three qualities stand out clearly in the hearts of our citizens. And they are competency, experience, and vision. I repeat, competency, experience, and vision. These qualities are not just abstract concepts. They are not just campaign slogans. They are the real ingredients of leadership that delivers. And they are deeply connected to the idea of servant leadership. Let me begin with competence. Competence is not simply intelligence or skill. It is the ability to understand your responsibility so clearly that you never lose sight of your duty. No matter what stands in your way, if you are competent, you'll be able to jump at the header. Because of my deep belief in the power of example, let me share a brief experience I encountered a few years back. And normally, when you have a conversation with the president, you're not supposed to disclose to third parties until after several years. Normally, we say after it's been declassified because you operate under an oath. But I believe for the love the president got for students and youth like yourselves, he will pardon me for sharing some of these experiences with you. Years ago, when I served as the Minister for Local Government and Rural Development, I was assigned the task of implementing a nationwide street naming. As you drive around, you see that almost all our streets are named now. Several years back, we didn't have that. And so if you wanted to go to Academic City, someone will tell you, don't worry, when you go past the gas station, go straight deep down the road, make a left turn, you see a big tree. Behind the big tree, there's a blue kiosk. And once you see the blue kiosk, just make the right turn and you'll be at the school. But the president then thought that this is not the best way to go. And that as a country, we needed to have properly marked our street naming so that somebody will be able to tell you, I live on number 32, Okukuseku Street, or something of that nature. It was one of the largest challenges at the time. The entire country needed to be named so that homes and businesses could finally be located. And this is what I wanted to share with you that the president shared with me. So the president calls me one morning to his house and says, normally he calls me Dr. J, says, Doc, do you remember what I said at Manchagborna a few years ago when you were the regional minister for Greater Accra? So apparently, he's invited all the development partners together from various countries and charged his municipal and district chief executives that by October, if they are not able to get all the street namings done, he's going to sack all of them. And so just around June, July, he calls me and said, I just realized that October is just around the corner and that we need to get this thing done. But anytime I call for estimate for the project, they bring figures like 20 million US dollars, 30 million. And where are we going to get that money? Do you have an idea? Or can you bring some skills to get this thing done? I said, yes, sir. Your Excellency, I'll give it a try. We're talking about competence without sounding boastful, but just to also encourage you that you must always learn to think outside the box. It's one of the easiest and best ways to bring out the competency in you. So I organized 2 fora, the northern sector and the southern sector. And they invited all the MMDCs. They came, well-dressed, sat down. And then I looked at their faces and I was like, okay, who amongst you want to be sacked? And then everybody was quiet. I said, but are you aware that by October, if you've not done the street naming, the president is going to remove you from office? So if you know you don't want to be sacked, please raise your hand. Naturally, you can see what happened. Everybody got their hands up. I said, okay. Now, we have done the estimation to say that if you raise one of the street naming posts, per matter of discussion, maybe it will cost you 200 cedis. And so if you want to raise about 10 of it, you need about 2,000 cities. So I say, show by hands. Any of you that believe at his assembly or her assembly, they will be able to raise 2,000 cities. Immediately, I got like half of the room, everybody raising their hands. I said, great. You guys are not going to be sacked. So go back, because already they've captured the data and had requested from chiefs and the residents to come out with proposed names for the various streets. I said, when you go back, select the street in front of the chief's palace. They say 1. Select the street in front of the main lorry park, 2. Select the street in front of the market, 3. And then we captured the first 10. I said, I want to see this thing done within the next 1 week. But when you go back and you speak to the accounts department and they tell you you have more funds available to continue this project, call back to my office and let us know. Everybody went back, and within a week, we started getting calls. Oh, when I go back and I check, we have 40,000 cities. We have 20,000 cities. Because it's got to do with procurement, right? And within a sprinkle of an eye, in less than 3 months, the whole country, we got the street naming almost fixed. So then came the question, but when are you going to complete the street naming? And then we said, street naming never gets finished, because once you are fixing the last street, somebody is also building their new house or starting a foundation of their house. So this story is something that I believe came as a result of thinking outside the box. Because normally if you want to follow the status quo, it could take a longer time without you realizing exactly what you want to achieve. So we roll up our sleeves. The team travel across the country from big cities to the smallest communities. We work with the traditional leaders, district assemblies, residents, and we adapted an approach that enabled us to finish with that project. There were nights when the team stayed in the field long after sunset, and mornings that began before dawn. Through determination, creativity, and collaboration, we got the task accomplished. Today, Ghana has a comprehensive street naming system because a team of committed public servants refused to give up. That experience taught us that true competence is not about having an easy job. It is about executing a difficult job ruthlessly and responsibly. It is about pursuing results with a kind of dogged determination that refuses to surrender. As a servant leader, I believe the people deserve nothing less. Let me speak briefly about experience. I just spoke about competency, but let me talk about experience. Experience deepens leadership. It gives leaders perspective, patience, and humility. My journey through public service has taken me from grassroots political work to regional administration, from ministerial leadership to serving as the chief of staff at the highest level of government. Along the way, I have learned that leadership is rarely about standing at the front line giving instructions. More often, it is about standing beside people, listening to them, learning from them, and helping them unlock solutions they already hold within themselves. In fact, if you speak to people who knows me well, they will tell you that I cherish working quietly in the background. I once read somewhere a quote by Nelson Mandela saying that it's always better to learn to lead from behind, not necessarily being the noisiest for everybody to see that you are the gentleman in charge. You could be at the background and making sure that your lieutenants, your subordinates are getting the instructions right so that the outcome of your work will show and speak for itself. And even as chief of staff, I still cherish the moment where I can stay in the shadows whilst ensuring that the administration is firing on all cylinders and executing like a machine. This kind of experience shapes a leader's heart. It teaches that the real Ghana is not found in boardrooms or conference halls alone. It is found in fishing communities, in farming villages, in bustling markets, on campuses like this one, and in everyday struggles and victories of ordinary citizens. Experience grounds you. It makes you stronger. It makes you confident. It enables you to move on. It reminds me that the people are not beneath you. They are the reason why you are there as the leader. And then I want to talk about vision. Vision is what connects today to tomorrow. It is what happens or what helps a leader see beyond the noise of the moment and imagine a future where Ghana is stronger, fairer, and more prosperous. And I give two examples of vision. And I always love to use President Mahama because he's the one I work with directly. So we all wake up one day and President Mahama says that, have you thought about what we can achieve instead of allowing the Volta River to just flow down to the sea by establishing what we call the Economic Development Zone? In this case, we call them Volta Economic Development Zone, where government is going to make conscious effort to make sure that we prepare irrigated lands on either side of the banks of the Volta so that people can go into commercial farming, not only the farming, because one of his flagship programs is also to encourage agro-processing. Imagine a situation where we have managed to develop the banks of the Volta River and we have factories processing agro-products. We have others processing products that can be exported. That's where we will be rejuvenating our economic system. That is what we call vision. President says, I think Accra is becoming very choked. You stay in traffic for 30 minutes without moving an inch. How about we creating another city out of nowhere? So the president says, I believe strongly that if we go and look for some land somewhere around Bundasi or somewhere around beyond Prapram, and then we start an entirely new functional city, this time around making sure that it's a city that is, compliance with all the environmental needs, making sure it's a green city as much as possible, using solar and things like that. To me, that is vision. You can have a leader who will stay on for 1,000 years and who always says, as for me, I don't want, like we say here, as for me, I don't want trouble. What I came to meet, let me manage this small, and then when my time comes, I leave. That is a leader without vision. So President Mahama says that, well, Kwame Nkrumah did well. He built a harbor for us. But we need to expand the harbor because the population is growing, meaning more imports are going to come into the country. So I want to expand our harbor so that in future, if there's an increase in importation, there will be some flexibility and smoothness in running and operating the harbor. That is vision. And I think every leader, every servant leader must have some vision as well. Either than that, there's no point in you being in leadership position. I believe deeply in a Ghana where every young mind has the opportunity to thrive, where innovation is encouraged, where technology becomes a tool for inclusion rather than inequality, and where public institutions are trusted because they work for the people. Here at Academic City University, I see the seeds of that vision. I see young people preparing to lead in fields that do not exist a generation ago. I see faculty shaping minds that will create the companies, technologies, policies, and solutions of a modern Ghana. I see a community that believes in excellence, discipline, integrity, and success. These are the values that makes nations rise. As a public servant, I embrace this vision not because it is convenient, but because it is necessary. Ghana stands at a crossroad. The decision we make today will shape the lives of millions tomorrow. This is the moment for leaders who serve rather than to pretend to be commanding. Leaders who listen rather than to dictate. And leaders who build rather than divide. Leaders who put country above self. This is the heart of servant leadership. It is not a style. It is a commitment. A servant leader works with people, not above them, inspires them through examples, not intimidation, and carries power as a responsibility, not as a privilege. To the students here, I want you to remember this. Leadership is not something you wait for. It is something you practice every day in how you treat people, how you handle your tasks, and how you pursue your dreams. To the faculty members, I salute your dedication to shaping the next generation. To the staff, your work behind the scenes holds the institution together. Without them, you get to the lectures hall and it's tidy up. It won't be conducive for you to learn. So everyone's role is very important. And to the members of the public here today, thank you for believing in Ghana's potential, as I do. We have so much potential. Once we have the right leadership, we'll see the improvement we're all yearning for. It's not a hopeless situation at all. So as we look forward to the years ahead, my hope is that we will all rise to the challenge of servant leadership. Let us choose competence over excuses, experience over improvisation, and vision over short-term thinking. Let us lead with humility, courage, and purpose. And let us build a Ghana where progress is not a promise, but a lived reality. Thank you. May God bless you, and may God bless our homeland, Ghana. Thank you very much. I was going to do your job for you.
Yeah, so we would like to take the first set of questions. So I'm sure maybe 5 questions we'll do for a round. Okay. So if you have a question, kindly raise your hand. I'll bring the mic to you. Okay. So do you mind? Or you're okay? Okay, so the first set of questions, if you have a question, just raise your hand. 1, 2. Okay, so we'll start from you.
Okay, thank you very much for this great submission to our leader, the Chief of Staff of Ghana, His Excellency Julius Debrah. Thank you very much. And I'm Abdulatif Usman Chibu, a student from Academic City University, a proud presidential scholar. The question I have for you, I'm very happy for the submission you've given today about leadership. But I'm very sorry to say that during election, we see that these leaders always come around, drink dirty water with us, hug babies, we the poor. But after the election, after they pursue power, their peers are arrogant beyond recognition. Even if you call them, don't pick. So the question I have for you is, if you check Article 78 Clause 1 of the 1992 Constitution, which is saying that the president of Ghana, it has given him title to serve. But do we have, or which time can the Constitution be changed for the president to come down to serve, not to be served? Thank you very much.
Hello. Thank you for this honorable opportunity. My name is Jacob Nilante Badu. I'm a computer science student at Academic City. My question for you is that as the upcoming AI and cybersecurity era is upon us, the youth, what are the strategies the government or Ghana's leadership is going to enforce upon the youth to build solutions that will not only serve the citizens, but build solutions to solve Ghana's crisis? Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, sir.
Thank you very much. The first gentleman who spoke, I like your confidence for challenging the president to come. But I think that's how it's supposed to be. I mean, people in leadership must be prepared to face the reality. It's true that during campaigning, you see a lot of politicians come around, as you said, hugging babies, drinking dirty water and all. In some cases, you know, when campaigning, there seems to be so much flexibility with what they do. But after the election, you take a typical case of a president. It's going to be very difficult for the president to be overly available in the communities because he's now presiding over the country, ensuring that all his cabinet ministers reporting to him are doing what he wants done according to the vision presented to the people. So that could be one of the main reasons why sometimes it's very difficult to see them. I've had the occasion to try and explain this thing about phone calls, and I'm not saying brief for anybody, because there are others that deliberately decide not to answer calls. But there are occasions where it's a bit difficult to imagine yourself in, say, cabinet meeting with other ministers, or even as I'm standing here in presence of, your good selves. And then every 2 minutes you see me go like, oh, could you mami from back, or, it sometimes becomes a bit destructive. And so most people, when they are in meetings, important meetings, let me put it that way, decide to put their phones on silent so that at the end of the meetings, they will try and return some of the calls. But you also find out that sometimes by the end of, in my case, at the end of each meeting, I see like 240-something calls. It becomes difficult. Or sometimes even if you try to reply, the moment you are about dialing the first one, you see another call also coming in, and something else comes up, and then you end up not being able to even return the calls. The trick, in my case, The trick is that normally in the mornings between 6 to about 9 a.m., I am definitely behind my desk. And so chances are if someone calls me, I'll answer. And then sometimes when you're trying to reach some of them and they don't answer, just send a message. Because the person may not be able to speak by voice, but they will be able to send a short message. Oh, don't worry, please, I'll call you back. In any case, I think leaders who respect the people they are leading normally feel very bad when they see missed calls and they are not able to return. That is a fact. In my case, I'm not sounding boastful. Sometimes when I see, maybe a chief or a pastor or even maybe a young student I had met and giving the student my number to call me, and I see him calling, but I'm in the middle of a meeting, I can't answer the call. I believe there are other colleagues like who are experience the same thing. That I'm not holding brief for anybody. I think as much as possible, you need to find the best times to reach whoever you want to reach. Sometimes they will answer, sometimes they may not. But don't give up. Keep trying. Even if they don't answer today, they may answer tomorrow. Imagine calling someone, maybe the person is seated in front of his or her doctor, and then the call comes, you say, oh, doc, but your mamini madam will be, that type of thing. So it's a mix of that. The main issue, and speaking for President Mahama, he's somebody that I wish everybody could get the opportunity to experience him on a daily basis. He doesn't want to be served as in see himself like a monarch and everybody coming to go to. No. Sometimes basic things that we even want to do to maybe, I don't want to use the word to impress, but to make his life comfortable. He goes like, oh no, I'll hold my own thing. And sometimes, but I'll send your message to him that he should make time and visit you again because you guys, you've missed him, right? The other one has to do with the cyber security and that space. If you've paid attention, you realize that President Mahama has even changed the name of the ministry responsible for it. Ministry of Communication, Digitalization, and Innovation. The objective is that to try, when time changes, you need to try and also catch up with time. And in his thinking, he believes that it's about time we pay much attention to cyber activities and digitalization. And so we have the Cyber Security Authority, we have the Signals Bureau, and all those agencies working in that space just to make sure that the right thing is done. Recently, I don't know whether you were following the news, we launched what we call the AI policy, which government is seriously working on because we realize that this is the direction to go instead of staying stagnant and not catching up to time. I don't know whether that helps with your question.
Very much. Let's put our hands together for him. Any further questions? Okay, now the hands are coming up. They were warming up. All right, thank you very much.
So, good evening. I'm Mohammed Yassin. Okay, I have two questions actually. The first one is, if you had all the power in the world, let's say, what are some of the gaps in the government that you would address and why? And also, the second question I have is, you were speaking about servant leadership, right? When do you think is appropriate for someone who is a servant leader to actually be firm in a sort of a leader who is more or less like someone who commands, for the right thing to be done? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable. My name is Mame Ifia Usu. Honorable, I also have two questions. The first one is that in the next 5 to 10 years, I would like to know, what do you envision Ghana's leadership to be in the next 5 or 10 years? And secondly, this one was actually just a random one that struck, and I think it's a good one. My second question is, you mentioned that sometimes as leaders, you just do not have the time to respond to some of these messages. And so my other question is that if there was an extra 2 hours in a day where you could have 26 hours in a day, I'm just curious. I would like to know what you'd use those extra 2 hours for. And indeed, if sometimes when people do not respond to some messages, they give the excuse that, I did not have time to respond, I've been so busy. But sometimes the truth is that even when they do get the time to respond, they do not respond. And so if you had an extra 2 hours, I would just like to know what you use it for. Thank you.
Good evening, Your Excellency. My name is Bernate, and during your talk, you made mention in terms of experience as a leader. So within this past year, a couple of months ago, maybe you may have forgotten, but everyone remembers, you made an unfortunate announcement about the helicopter crash that happened near Obuasi. Yeah, so looking at this experience that you've had, you made mention of experience deepens leadership and it also grounds you. Looking at this experience, like you losing colleagues just suddenly like that, how will you say this has kind of deepened your leadership in your position and also has also grounded you also?
All right. Thank you very much. So that's 5 questions from 3 people. The one thing I can say is that the Honorable Julius Debrah responds to his phone calls. That one I can assure you. All right, Honorable.
All right, thank you very much. The first gentleman who spoke wanted me to address what I feel is a main gap in the governance system. Without trying to sound okay, let me rephrase it. So if you ask me, because so let me use President Mahama's vision to address what we saw as a gap, which he's trying to address. Now, one of the key things that President Mahama is aiming at doing is that entrepreneurship is something that has been reduced to lip service. So you hear series of governments in the past saying that the private sector is the engine of growth. The private sector is the engine of growth. But we needed to walk that talk. And so one of the gaps he has identified and is trying to address is how best for us to infuse entrepreneurship activities into the nation building. So per matter of discussion, if we say government is going to help create X number of jobs, part of his understanding is that you speak to the private sector participants, the entrepreneurs who run companies and businesses, and ask them, what can my government do to enable you create additional job openings? So it's one of the gaps we've identified and filling. Another gap he's identified and filling is that you might have heard of the 24-hour economy. When we started, people thought it was some gimmick or was some joke. But the truth is, as at the time of independence, our total population was less than 7 million. But on the same land size, we could feed ourselves comfortably. As we speak now, our population is around 34 million, thereabout. and yet we face the challenges that you see. And it is estimated by 2050, Ghana's population will hit 50 million and above. And so, thinking ahead, he decides that why don't we encourage as many entrepreneurs or enterprises as possible to adopt a 24-hour economy. In other words, having an economy that runs all day and night, and then government coming out with policies that will enable those enterprises to achieve that objective. It's one major gap that he's also identified and we are working on. You also wanted to know that when we use the expression, a servant leader, it sounds too cool for people to even believe whether a servant leader can get something achieved. I was just talking to a group yesterday and I said, in most cases, when you are a leader and you tend to lead by threats, bullying, intimidation, the people you are leading will pretend to be listening. Normally when they see you coming, everybody tries to stand up. But the moment you leave, they reflect and go back, insult you a little bit, and they just go and take it easy. When they see you coming again, then they will act. But if you are able to inculcate the culture of being responsible to the people you are leading, even in your absence, something tells them that we need to get this thing going. Something tells them that, look, we are not like animals where somebody needs to stand on us with canes. It is our responsibility to get things done. And so I would rather want to put it this way, that a servant leader does not necessarily need to be a commandant in charge of the people he's leading. A servant leader, through his coercive powers and his ability to explain things to the people he's leading, they always come along and normally don't fail. Our sister wanted to know the kind of leadership I want to see in the next 5 years. To be very honest with you, not because I work for President Mahama, but the truth be told, he combines the three things that I spoke about. He combines experience, he combines competency, and he combines vision. Anybody at all that will be in the space for the next 5 years, once they have these three things, Ghana will progress. And I don't want to sound, though I'm a politician, but I didn't want to sound that way. But a few years back, we all heard that the NDC political party led by President Mahama were saying that if you go to University of Ghana, you see the University of Ghana Medical Center. Even though our economy wasn't as rosy as you can imagine, if you go to Kotoka International Airport, you see terminal still being built. If you go to the Tema Harbor, you saw the new expansion. What that simply means is that when the leadership of the nation combines competency, experience, and vision, the citizens themselves, you have a feel. Lately, there's a conversation about we're going to have a new expressway from Accra to Kumasi. It's vision. President Mahama could have just said, okay, you let me patch the Accra Kumasi, and that won't take us anywhere. And so, to answer a very simple question, the type of leader I would like to see in this country for the next 5 years is somebody with all the qualities of President Mahama. You must be competent, you must have a vision, and you must be a hands-on president so that our country will move. Of course, you must have the youth at heart. Without the youth, there's a challenge. And he's somebody who thinks so much about the youth. I don't know whether you've paid attention. He says that I want to establish a whole ministry responsible for youth development. Think about it. at least the objective of trying to get something specially done for the youth of the country is something very important. And so that is the kind of leader I would like our country to have for the next 5 years. The beautiful part of her question that says, if I were to have 2 extra hours per day, what am I going to do with it? Just as I said, you see, respect for humanity is like religion. I'm serious about this. Respect for humanity is like religion. And part of my religion is that if I see this gentleman today, even though I may not know him from Adam, if I need to stop and say hello and shake his hand, I'll do it. Because my religion teaches me that he who despises smaller beginnings shall never see a bigger ending. There are people that today, if you look at their circumstances, when they knock at your door, you may not even grant them entry. You may not give them water to drink because you can't see far. All you see is somebody probably well-dressed, and that's not it. And so, if I had 2 extra hours a day, believe you me, I would have spent it just chatting people. Because sometimes some of the ideas that comes from, quote unquote, ordinary people that you don't even think. I don't know whether you heard this story. I learned, if whoever told me the story was wrong, then I'm wrong too. I learned that there was an automobile showroom, and they had designed, one of the big automobile companies, they've designed a new vehicle, and they were trying to bring the vehicle to park in the showroom. All the engineers, they've done all the calculations, and they've measured 4 meters by 4 meters. They brought the vehicle, tried to put it in, but it was not possible. And everybody was scratching their head. Then the security man at the corner went closer to one of the people who was a bit friendly and said, "Sir, you know why? I think when you loosen the ties and push the car in, you can pump it back." I mean, what I'm trying to drive at is that if I had 2 extra hours a day, I will be chatting people. Sometimes it's not everybody that engages you that is coming to beg for money or looking for a job or something. He says, sometimes they say, "Can you tell the president that, oh, I was thinking about this. Can you guys factor it? Can you share this with the Minister of Education that I went to a school, ACity, and I saw they were doing that," things like that. So answering a very simple question, my dear sister, if I have extra 2 hours, I will use it to enjoy humanity some more. Because at the end of the day, why are we living? It's not just about the money you have in your account or the Porsche car you ride, but the fact that you can put a smile on somebody's face. People are bottomed up with pain and stress. Maybe they just want somebody to say, "Oh, don't worry, you'll be fine. I believe strongly tomorrow by this time, you'll be fine." That's all. That's all they need. So I pray I get 2 extra hours a day. And definitely, I guarantee you, I'll love to share with you. The last gentleman thing, as you all know, is too heavy. And I'm sure if you follow the news, I was tasked with that difficult responsibility to break the news to the family and the nation as well. It's not easy. I mean, we all knew our colleagues, they have an engagement, they are on their way, and all that. And then for like an hour or 2, there's silence. And then normally it starts like whispering. Someone, "Oh, have you heard? I think there's a bad news. Have you heard? What is it? I think it's a bad news." And then finally it dawns on you that this has happened. It's very unfortunate. May the Lord grant their souls everlasting rest. But lessons have been learned if you follow the government communication minister. And definitely such things may not, I don't anticipate such things to happen in the near future.
Thank you very much. Is there any other question about other? Okay. One. Any other? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed the presentation. My name is Jeremy Akwa, and I'm a computer science student here. So my question is quite simple. I'd want to find out from you, if you could go back to your university days, what are some of the habits and mindsets that you would have adopted earlier that you think would have prepared you for some of the responsibilities that you eventually took on in your career? Thank you.
Any other? Okay. All right, sir.
I love this question. I love the question because I have a very funny university story to tell. So in the 80s, when I left sixth form, for several reasons, including challenges at home and all that, I thought the best way is first go and look for money. But I thought all you needed was money. So I went to a place we call Kaishi, started doing business and all that. But after a while, when I meet my colleagues, and then they start dropping because most of my colleagues after sixth form, they went straight to university. And then they start dropping their credentials. I'm currently the financial analyst for Standard Bank, things like that. So I felt challenged and handicapped. And one morning I was driving to work. At that time, there was a gentleman by name Komna Dumo on Joy FM. He was interviewing an elderly woman who was like in her 60s, who was saying on air that she graduated with her granddaughter or something. So even though I was driving, I felt so challenged. I said, wow. But already sister started crack and graduate, then let me go back to school. So I went to university as a mature student. And then you can imagine how to mingle and mix with, the younger students. But it was quite a great experience for me. And I stayed through with them during the first degree, masters, and all that. And also learned a lot of things. But I think your question was if I could relate to some of the things I experienced in my university days, how could I use it to advise? That's why I gave you the background of my university days, because I'm sure if I lie, somebody go read to say, but you entered the University of Ghana as a mature student. That's why I gave you that backdrop. But coming on a more serious angle, one of my passions is about entrepreneurship. I am saying it's my passion because for a very long time, we were trained to go to university, and whilst at the university, be thinking that when I leave this campus, where do I find job to do? For a very long period. And so most people were not coming out of universities thinking how many jobs they are going to be able to create. And that's what I like about the concept of this university, where I understand it's a mix of hands-on entrepreneurship and things like that. If we say somebody is an entrepreneur, it doesn't necessarily need to be a large-scale entrepreneur. You could come out with, a friend was telling me what he used to do at University of Ghana. He was a student. And then he realized that at that time, most of the students, they had opened a place called On the Run, opposite University of Ghana. And they were buying this fried rice and chicken and all that. So what he did is that he will come along the halls and say, very soon we're going to bring what do you want? Rice and chicken, fish, and then he takes the order of maybe 15 people. And then he goes to bring it to them. But because he was buying in bulk, the on-the-run guys were fixing him. Eventually, he ended up starting his courier service. You do things to earn some additional income legitimately. I'm not saying you can do courier service, but I believe strongly that based on the objective of this school and the things you learned, if we begin to think that when we live here, I am going to establish such an enterprise, I'll go into fashion, and I'm estimating that the next 10 years I'll be able to employ 15 people, so shall it be. We all know the story of Mark Zuckerberg, right? We all know the story, how they started whatever they were doing from dormitories. And so, if I were to be fortunate and were to be at the university at the age like my mates, I believe I would have encouraged all of them that, guys, it's a new dawn, and let's begin to think of what we can do to create more jobs for people. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be a business owner and be dreaming around it, because in our local parlance, there's something that literally, there's a saying that literally is translated that a child who will buy a vehicle in future, when they walk, they ask for the price of tires. You know, it's a local balance. But I believe that once you set your mind at something and you work at it, so shall it be.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right, so colleagues, let's put our hands together and welcome the president of the university to the quick presentation on behalf of the school.
Thank you so much, Honorable, for making time to be here. We know how busy you are, but you've certainly taken our phone call, so we appreciate it very much. We have a tradition here of giving out a smock with our school colors on it. And whoever wears this eventually ascends to the highest office of the land. So it's my prayer.
Thank you so much. Yes. All right. It looks small. Yes. Wow. Thank you very much. Yes. So while we remain upstanding, we'll thank our guest lecturer for coming in today, and then let's stand up while he takes his leave of us. Thank you so much.